Hello. I'm going to start up some tea juice just to get the brain flowing. You know about the brain, you know that. So today we're going to work on non-constant array literals, which we have not supported yet. And I'm just going to do some stuff and we're going to see how it goes. The thing is, we did non-constant struct literals a while back. And naively, I would think, oh, I'm just going to do the same thing, but they're pretty different. So I'm going to add a thing. We're going to do cowabunga-oriented programming. So this is, the bytecode generation for what do you do? I'm going to try to do a little bit of stuff here. We're going to linear allocate on the stack. What's that argument? The site. Well, there we go. Because if an array is constant, we just packed it into global data a long time ago, right? If it's, and we have to make sure we don't do that. If it's non-constant, we're just going to evaluate every member. You could imagine a hybrid where you copy from a pre-built thing and then fill in stuff, but we're not going to do that because it's not clear. It's not clear in what cases that's actually a win, and you can end up losing a lot of the time. What do I think about Navi roster change? Dude, I'm not following any of that. If you tell me Shroud and Nothing's and Skadoodle are back on Cloud9, that's great. I'll follow that. Okay. In, let's call this an internal compiler error because this could happen for someone while this is in development. Okay. Okay. Now here we're going to do the runtime version of this. And I guess we're going to make a placement. Actually, I'm not sure. We're going to make a cursor. Actually, no. I'm not sure. Not sure what's the most efficient way to do this. Dude, why does everybody in the universe ask self-hosted? Why? I don't understand. I don't understand. Okay. So I'm just typing in some code for this. It's like, do we have an actual cursor that's a dynamically adjusted value? Or do I just use a constant? I guess I just use a constant and drop stuff in. We're going to go. Okay. So now we want to evaluate into a particular memory offset from the base of the array. We don't have the base of the array. So we're going to do this. I'm going to find or emit Lee. For going to make sure that doesn't happen. Um, it's instead going to be oh, I was looking for this line and I got them in the wrong order. LA. Um, zero. Um, yeah. Okay. So now we basically want base plus offset is the destination. Where the hell is value placement? Oh, so we have linear allocation. Okay, so we have L value register and L value offset. So we're going to try this. All right, and then we're going to emit expression. Yeah. Info placement statements in order. Yeah, statements in order sub I. The site, which is the literal, I guess. The placement. Okay, so the point of making this placement is so that if the Kali code knows how to put the value in the right place, if it knows how to put the lotion in the basket, then we don't have to copy it. Oh, do placed assignment. Oh, okay. I actually wrote that code. That seems like the thing. Okay, so we have to do some stuff. We have to actually put this, lotion in the basket. Okay. Okay, so we're looking down here. This is where we figure out the type of the array literal, and we like type check the elements. Okay. Now, we want to say you can only have a non-constant literal in imperative scope. Let's do this. Allow non-constant equals are we imperative? I think my golden monkey might be steeped. Okay, we've got our golden monkey breakfast tea. Oh boy. Oh boy. Okay, so we are deciding if you're going to be allowed to use a non-constant expression. Now, we do this. We check the types. We yield if we're not ready. If the types don't match, we get pissed off. Okay, wait, here's our constancy check. It's in a second pass. Okay. If allow non-constant, now we're going to be able to do some stuff. Otherwise, we're going to complain and break. If we allow non-constant, we're going to say if info first non-constant index is equal to -1, info first non-constant index equals I. So that's how the rest of the thing knows it's non-constant. Okay. That should get us some distance toward an implementation. I don't think I've gotten everything yet. Int nerp. Int nerp is a pretty good name for programming language. Int nerp. Int nerp. Okay. So in theory, we should be able to run all our tests and stuff. Like this is step number one. It's like, did I break something real bad? I don't think so, but we're just going to run these just to see. And then we're going to start. So we're going to want to have error messages. So there's easy stuff first. Like we'll try having a non-constant array in global data, which is not allowed. And we'll trigger an error message that says that's not allowed. But what we should say is that's not allowed, or that's only allowed in imperative scopes. This is not an imperative scope. And we could even give people what, in case they're in a really big scope, we tell them the start of the scope, like this is why you can't do this here. Upgrading to Windows 11, there's really no reason. If you can stay on Windows 10, do for now, because the only reason I'm on Windows 11 is because I bought a laptop and it came installed. That's literally all. There's no benefit to Windows 11 as far as I can tell. It's only worse. I mean, if you could still run Windows 7, I would be telling you to run that, because that was like the last good Windows, really. Wait, we got a Cowabunga. So I messed something up here. We shouldn't be getting that at all. Well, this was tests fails. Oh, it's a fail. I see. No, this is fine. Okay. Okay. Never mind. This is actually fine. We don't need to debug anything yet. Because what's happening is this actually is using a non-constant array literal. So never mind. I was going to say our first thing was going to be to do error messages. We could put this here. Error messages when used incorrectly. That's on our to-do list. But first, let's make this work, because this is a fail, right? The fails are the tests that are supposed to generate error messages. After we fix this functionality, this will no longer be a fail, and we'll move it and stuff. Only one benefit you found of Windows 11 is you can use a callback for error handling with D3D12. Okay. I mean, I'm not sure why that requires an entire operating system, but okay. Dude, Microsoft is so fucked now. It's unbelievable. I'm going to say this again. Like, this is when open source people should be saving us from this hell. But the problem is they don't know any better at this point. Because everybody left in open source has been raised in their own hell of like just horrible, overcomplicated things that don't work. And so they don't know how to give us something better than Windows 11. If they did, it would be a no-brainer at this point to switch. And they just don't even know how to do it. Open source doesn't pay you. But here's the thing. If it actually was going to be a better world of computing that was simpler and worked better and was cleaner and made you happy when you used it, all sorts of people would love to contribute, right? This is the open source myth, which is, hey, everybody contributes and makes it better. But the way it's being run right now, that almost never happens, right? What happens is everybody contributes and makes it more of a mess. And then the project gets stuck and fails to make progress because everything explodes to a level of complexity where it can no longer progress and then kind of solidifies, right? And so to be alive in software, you have to prevent that. You have to prevent reaching that bound. And the way that open source is being done, most people don't know how to do that. Almost nobody does. So, yeah, but dude, I would love to contribute to something like that. If there was an actual operating system project that like was doing the right thing, I would totally put in some hours on it. It doesn't exist, right? What about millions of drivers? Well, one thing you should do is make your operating system so that drivers are in user space and then they're not so scary and they're not so hard for people to work on and contribute. Like what is it about a driver that means it has to be super special scary code? Why? Have I rescued the laptop to become, yeah, it's kind of usable again. There's still some things that are weird, but it was scary for a bit, but this is the same laptop that I'm still using. Identify 5 of your most talented engineers and lock them away for 2 years to write the next Windows. Yeah, it's just Microsoft has no incentive to do anything like that, right? That Microsoft can't even institutionally understand why that would be a good idea. Okay. Problem is not that drivers are scary, it's that hardware vendors have no incentive. But like, look, none of that matters. You're making, I've explained this before, none of that matters. I just don't want to argue it again. These are like excuses for why things can't happen. I'll say the general thing again. Whenever you have a list of reasons why something's going to be hard, there's two types of people. And these roughly divide into the types of people who succeed running ambitious projects and the type who don't, right? Or the type who never even start, right? This latter type of person looks at that list of stuff and says, well, I guess that's why we can't do this thing. So let's pare down our ambition and do something where we can't think of any problems. And if you do that, you end up making things that are so easy anyone can make them. And so they're not special and you don't move the needle on anything at all. The correct attitude is you look at that list of problems and you say, okay, this is a to-do list. How do we solve these problems? Which of these are solvable earlier? Which of these are solvable later via infrastructure in advance of what we currently have, right? And that's how you actually get things done. So like it's a correct observation, for example, to say, hey, there's all these devices out there and they all have drivers, and how are you going to deal with that? But there are several answers to that question, depending on how you want to go. Of course, the correct answer is you type, please make me a device driver into GPT-4, and it outputs 100% perfect source code that correctly does everything. A correct mindset does not give you enough to... Dude, you're being... I'm not even going to... I'm not going to give you the dignity of a reply. You're just making me angry at this point. Make your own excuses all you want. All that means is you're not going to be one of these people who makes a difference. That's all it means. You would love to have user space drivers only. Yeah, I mean, I think, so that's the next operating system, right? I've said this before, but, you know, it should be, I would start with something like Arrakis, where it's like the operating system is very limited in what it does, and as much as possible occurs in user space, including authentication with devices and all these things, right? Now, there is certainly a little bit of challenge there, but I think that scales out into something much more reasonable than what we have today. Anyway, to say more on the NVIDIA thing, like, who gives a shit? Like, I wouldn't, if I was making a new operating system, I wouldn't try to do accelerated 3D for a long time. Like, who just... if you use a software renderer and you render all your applications with a software renderer, they're going to feel snappier than everything on Windows anyway, because everything on Windows is so goddamn slow. Do you have any idea how fast you can software render a fucking 2D button? It's insane, right? In fact, I think Windows does use software rendering for almost everything and then like blitz it or something. Like, just using that kind of thing as an excuse of why you can't do anything new is not healthy. It is deeply unhealthy, and it makes people unhappy, especially if they're programmers who would like to contribute to the world. So the right mindset is, okay, what can I do? What can I do stuff without making an NVIDIA driver? Can I, you know, I mean, dude, start with VGA if you have to. Plenty of people have done that, right? If you can get permission to do that. I don't know. I don't know if like UEFI blocks you from that shit now or something. Probably not. But you know, you do what you need to, and you figure out how much you can do with your current level of resources and your current level of understanding, and then you also move to increase your resources and understanding, right? And that's a feedback loop. Fuck off, dude. I mean, dude, if you give me a software rendered backend that would do 3D without drivers, I would love to use that for game development, actually. It would be a slower frame rate, but I wouldn't have driver problems. That would be great. Are you kidding? Yeah, I have very little tolerance for this idea that nobody can make anything new because of this and that. It's really, It's learned helplessness, right? And I get it. I get why that happens because things are really messed up. And you look at the giant, like you could never even read all of the source code in Linux if you include user space of a standard distribution, like in your life, probably. I get it. Um, but it doesn't have to be that way, right? And having hope that it doesn't have to be that way is the motor that people throughout all of human history have used to improve the situation. And so if you just say, well, okay, somehow all these people in the past managed to make things better, but today we can't, there's something wrong with that viewpoint, right? There's something wrong with it. It's a deeply, it's a viewpoint for people who want to die. Or, I mean, that's a little too harsh, but it's certainly a viewpoint for people who don't really want to live in a thriving way. Let's put it that way. And so, just don't let that grab you. You know? You're just questioning how a new OS would help piling up on top of the existing dozen OSs. Well, again, here's a thought experiment for anyone who says that. Because people say that about programming languages, right? They say it about game engines. How there's already existing ones that everybody uses. How is a new one going to matter? Okay, again, 1,000 years from now, assuming human beings are still alive, are they running Windows? Yes or no? 1,000 years from now, right? Windows was invented 30-ish years ago, all right? That's a 2-digit number. 1,000 years from now, are people still using it? Probably not. Okay. When does that changeover happen? Does it happen 990 years from now? Probably not. Does it happen 10 years from now? Maybe. Does it happen 5 years from now? Maybe. You just don't know. So that's a thought experiment to do. Anytime you have this question about anything in any domain. Same with game engines. Oh my God, how are you going to compete with, Unity and Unreal, and then maybe Godot now, because Godot is the open source option. Again, 100 years from now, is anyone using any of those game engines? Probably not. Okay. So if that time threshold is 100 years, could it be 50 years? Could it be 20 years? Obviously, yes, in all of those answers. Could it be 10 years? Obviously, yes. I mean, dude, 2 days ago, nobody was thinking that Russia would have a frickin' coup, right? Like, things happen. And you have to be willing to play if you want things to happen for you. Now, that said, someone's not been keeping up on current events. Go to any news website. Yeah, things have got to be exciting in Russia right now. That's all I'm thinking. They are not exciting. Okay, well, I mean, I guess it's like anything, right? Like I'm sitting here in the U.S. and there's nothing visibly going on, right? I imagine in most of Russia, nothing is visibly going on, right? Like you're probably hearing about things on the news just like anybody else. But yeah, now all that said, right? It is hard to do good work. And again, I've always been a proponent of trying to do things that are as good as possible, not just trying to do your own version of the same things everyone's doing, and then it's better because it's yours and you won some software battle, right? Which is why, for example, I still haven't released this frickin' programming language, because I want to really take it into new territory that is well thought out and that performs well and is good and helpful. Um, and we're in that territory now. There's a few more things I want to nail down, but like it is hard to do this stuff. And so so on the one hand, you need to have the motivation, you need to have the drive and the interest to contribute, but you also have to know what you're getting into, right? You also have to know this is going to be, unless I'm very lucky, uh, it's going to be a workout, right? You got to be ready to work out. You got to be ready to go to the gym. You wish there was an outlet that just reported on new advances of humanity and positive stuff. The Pirate Wire's White Pill Tuesday update does that. Although I'm not sure if they do that every week. Maybe. Maybe they do. Okay, let's go back to programming. Let's go back to programming now. We have, we're in emit literal. Do place to, so we're emitting the subliteral, and let's just, we got pretty far through our code, but something is not being handled correctly. Okay. Get expression offset. Okay, we're in a struct literal. So this is, yeah, so here's what I would like to do first. So this is a literal full of struct literals. Let's go to the actual file so you can see. What is it? Non-underscore constant. Okay, see, and it's something about this part that is not really working right now. So what I would like to do is start with something simpler that doesn't have struct literals on the inside. And we'll just make that work. Um, type given float. Oh, why did we return? Yeah. Okay, so we have a similar problem here, and I'm not sure why. At least we've determined it doesn't really have to do with struct literals. Oh, whoops, we're running the wrong program. Okay, we're emitting a literal. Okay, emit declaration. Do play emit literal. Okay. Oh, this is not. Wait, what? What? Why are we emitting a struct literal? Why does it think this is a struct literal? Wait, this says array. We didn't put a break. Because this is C++, that happens. Okay, unhandled literal and emit literal. Better. Sorry for being aggressive. I mean, it's just, look, on the one hand, I kind of get it. Like I was saying, I kind of get it. But it's just, Twitch chat is not a very good way to have an intelligent argument anyway. And when it comes in the form of like, nuh-uh, what you're saying is wrong and that's all the content of it, it's like, it's just very frustrating from my end as well, right? But that's the thing is, there's not equal bandwidth available in this medium, right? The chat is small amounts of text and the talking video is the talking video, and that's just the format. So, I don't know. Twitch chat is not a good way to have intelligent anything. I mean, really, that's the whole internet at this point, just about, right? Like, what did we do? That's okay. If you want to make a good contribution, don't forget working on a new operating system, but maybe consider just making the internet not be so fucking stupid all the time, right? How do you do that? That would be an amazing contribution, right? Can you imagine if like the internet was all full of smart, polite, happy people who are fun to be with? It's pretty weird. Like Facebook back in the day, I'm still on Facebook because when you move places, it's like one way to just be in contact with a friend list, right? Of people you're meeting. And I just go on Facebook and I'm just like, the way this whole feed works, it's just kind of for stupid people. Like, I don't know how else to describe it. It's like everything is, I mean, there's the things from your friends or whatever, and that's fine. But like, 20% or 30% of my Facebook feed is just these auto-generated inserted things that are all clearly for like, I don't know, like it makes me upset just even seeing what Facebook thinks I might want to look at. It's crazy. Small attention span. Yeah, but it's also just like the whole thing about the internet is have just enough content to get the click, but don't put any effort into it or don't have any real information or interest in it. And it's all like that, you know? So we have to say handled equals true. Okay. The reason I missed that is here we're just doing a return. So we're going to do that. Like if we fall down. Oh, shit. Like we're sort of skipping the placements. Yeah, I don't know. We're using it for some types of things. Hey, look, it worked, everybody. Okay, this is an important point that is kind of an advanced technique about how to work on big things. Let's make a positive contribution by talking about this. We now have our first glimmer of this functionality that we have an array. It's non-constant. That was the goal, like because it calls factorial here. Now, in a compiler like this, there's lots of loose ends that you have to deal with all the time. There's like, oh, what if you do this in this situation? What if you do it in that situation? What about, etc. There's all these things, and we're going to go try to tie up whatever loose ends we can think of now. And it can seem overwhelming to do all those things all the time. But as with anything in programming, the good strategy is like a divide and conquer strategy, right? So what we did was we drove straight to Moscow and we planted our functionality right there in the capital, right? And then you go out and you take care of everything after that, because everything that's left is kind of small things now. Like we didn't have to do everything just at once. You know what I'm saying? So now everything is incremental. It's like, oh, well, we'll probably fix whatever we can, and then somebody in the beta program will do something weird, and we'll hit a bug, and they'll send it in, and we'll be like, oops, let's fix that, right? But really, as soon as you can get a piece of the thing, especially if it's a major midline piece like this, you're in really good shape. Yeah, so that's the thing. If something feels like a big task, just make it incremental, right? Just do it a piece at a time. And if those pieces yield visible results, then that's a good motivator, and it's a good evidence that you're proceeding forward. You know, this little example doesn't need this struct. We'll leave it there. I don't know. Okay. Okay, so let's try this one now. We don't have it in the buffer. Tests, fails, non-constant array literal. Hey, that is no longer a fail. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to delete that, because we're going to make this be a new test of the functionality, and we're just going to build it out to test a few different things, and then we'll copy it into the right place. So, oops, that's a float. Ta-da! Okay. Cool. Cool, cool, cool. Let's work on some error messages. Now we're going to want a new fail. So for example, we could do this same thing, and we could have this in the global space, and that's not allowed. And like I said earlier, that's probably going to give us an error message that we would like to modify. Oh, well, that's actually fine. Okay, here we go. So really, all we need to do is add some more information. And we're going to actually want a couple different tests of this. This will be one of them. And in this case, we actually probably don't want to print what the block is. We probably want to just say, dude, you're in file scope, bro. You're in a top level scope. Because like printing the location of the scope, it would be the invisible first line of the file. That's not very good. But if you do this inside a struct, which is another test we can do, then we would like to say, oh, you're in the body of a struct, dude. Okay. So, attempt to use a non-constant element inside an array literal. Yeah. So this is in that other, right? If we allow non-constant, we do this. Otherwise, here. Okay. Inside an array literal, that must be constant. Okay. Okay, so now if report info, this literal must be constant because it's in a top level data scope. So there is no you know, like how do you even say that? Sometimes some things are so fundamental they're hard to describe. It's like there's no running code to produce a value, dude. What do you mean? When starting designing something, most of the time those design docs won't get you anywhere. Yeah. Okay, so here's the thing. Here's the thing about design documents. Design documents are not for you. If you're a lone person designing something, a design document is not really helpful. It's a performative waste of time. Now you might want to have notes, like if you want to remember your plans, right? You might draw an outline or something, but that's just whatever you want in order to remember what you're doing and in order to help you think about what you're doing. What a design document actually is it's an element of production. It's a way of organizing a team, okay? A design document communicates to other people on the team who are going to be, designing sub portions of the thing, or who are going to be programming things and need to know exactly what they're programming. It's to communicate to those people, what are we all working on? Okay, that's a design document. If you don't have a team working on something, you do not need a design document because there is no need to communicate the design. That's the thing. And so people get this confused because they hear about design documents and they think that often designing something involves making a design document. But that's not design, right? Making a design document is like LARPing as a designer, unless, like I said, unless you really need to do it as part of your production process. But before you make a design, and so then that plays back into this question, right? Before you make the design document, then you should you should know basically what the design is before you make the document, or it's going to be an incoherent document, right? So all this design process that you're talking about has to actually happen first. This exploratory mode, right? And so whatever tools for thought help you do that exploration, I think are fine. CPP is difficult for you. It's difficult for me too, man. What am I going to say? That's why I don't know most of C++ at this point. Do I plan on giving out new beta keys soon? We're in a little bit of a slowdown period because, I was getting bug reports a little bit faster than I could handle. We went through a big burst of adding beta people, and now we're in a slower thing, maybe at least for a month or something. I don't know. We'll see. Which doesn't mean we're adding no people to the beta. It's just we're not looking to like radically expand it again for a little bit. This array literal must be constant because it's in a top-level data scope, so there is no running code to generate non-constant values. Okay, else this array literal must be constant because it's in a non-imperative scope. Here is the start of that scope. Let's actually be even a little bit more specific. We're going to anticipate some common cases, right? So this is like, okay, and we want to use the block as the location. Must be constant because it's inside the body of a struct. So there is no running code. Now we might want to permit this later to generate non-constant values. At this time, we don't allow struct initializers to generate non-constant values, though we might think about this someday. Here is the start of that structs. Okay. So we're thinking about what might happen, and we're telling people about that. There we go. It's in a top-level data scope. Now let's make our other test, right, which is going to be this. Dude, we have a lot of wind outside today. It's kind of exciting. Kind of want to go hang out in the windy wind. Boom. It's not even the start of the scope. I mean, whoops. global array. Use a non-constant and see, we can check for multiple strings. So this here we're checking that the basic error happens, and here we're checking that we get the right explanation from the compiler about what's going on. And then for this one, body of a struct. All right. Can the literal be the result of a function executed with the run directive? It can, but in that was something we already supported. So that's fine. In that case, the whole literal is constant. Because when the run returns it, we know what it is. Yeah, those are just string compares. Uh-oh. We saw a fails. We saw, did I switch off Commander? Yeah, I'm just too annoyed at Commander. It's just too aggravating. Non-constant element. Oh, I didn't delete. This was our old fail. This one. It was literally right below. All right, we're just going to run the whole thing again. Did I implement opaque array literals? No. If I understand the question, no, because that's sort of an optimization, and you know, we'll probably do that eventually. Honestly, it's just there were you know, these kind of things are, I think, more of an issue that beta people would like addressed, right? That's my guess. Changelog. Non-constant array literals are now supported when in imperative scopes, aka procedure bodies. Oh, I forgot something about the error messages. Actually, maybe I didn't. Right. Okay, we're already saying what the index is. The reason, see, I made this whole variable to tell us what the index is. Let me put that. I had been storing this index instead of a non-constant and is non-constant bool for error messages, but it turns out we report the relevant errors in the loop that checks constancy anyway, so we don't need a stored index. Maybe this will matey Ahoy, matey. Maybe this will help when debugging. Maybe this index. If not, it can be reduced to a single flag. Okay. Ahoy, matey. Ahoy, matey. All right. I think we're ready to take the W. We're going to take our Cowabunga out. And just to be very paranoid, I'm going to run everything again. Fake array literals do not show their contents to the metaprogram. Yeah. Yeah, so the thing is, the biggest win for that is when they're returned from compile time execution. Because otherwise we have to have at least the compiler's version of the syntax tree anyway. We wouldn't have the, there's a separate copy of the syntax tree that's made for the metaprogram. So you would at least save that if it's not returned from execution. But the biggest issue is if you return something from compile time execution and it's quite large, which you might want to do, right? Like what if you train a neural network and you're returning it? So yeah, I mean, it's definitely on the feature list for sure. I mean, I don't usually reply to beta submission emails. I either add people or don't. So don't expect a reply. It's just not, there's too much to do, right? If I had somebody managing the beta, then part of their job would be to reply to everybody really nicely, but we just can't do it right now. All right, so I think we take the W, right? All right. Boom. That's a big change. Let me go into high security mode here for a second and email the team. I'll say 2 programmers. Compiler feature improvement. Okay, you know what I realize? We added these tests to fails. Wait, did I? We didn't put a positive feature test, right? So this thing here, we want a positive test that this works, right? So assert a.z is equal to 120, or a sub 3. Assert b sub 1 dot y is equal to 120, right? Subscript is out of bounds because I can't count. Cool. Tests, features, non-constant array literal. We'll svenad that. Svenad. And we're going to run the tests an entire other time because we're just being thorough. People are going to be really happy about this beta, I think. When I bump the version, what versioning scheme? I mean, the version is literally a string in a header file that we compile into the compiler. It's not anything rocket sciencey at all. Okay, let's do a bonus since we've had such a happy stream. Last time on the last machine, somebody told me how, amazing people in Twitch chat told me how you frickin' open the config file for Windows Terminal and add hotkeys, because you can't actually do it with all this interface that they added. There's literally no hotkey in any of this. They did all this shit and there's no assigning hotkeys. It's only in the file. Like you would think it was this, but this does not include press arbitrary thing to output text, right? Whoops, I didn't mean all the tabs. I just meant that, yeah. I didn't think. So if someone can tell me, it was like some frickin' JSON crap somewhere. Mic is pretty quiet. What? I mean, look, it's in the bright yellow. It's almost red. You know, in those video games when they're like red line, that's where we are. So I don't know what your deal is. This anymore, and the computer would melt from how loud the mic is. Local app data packages. Hold on. Local app data packages. Microsoft.Windows Terminal. Why do they make this so crazy? 8WEC YB38BBWE. Fucking awesome. Local state. Settings.json. Okay, so we've got the file. And then how do we add a hotkey? Boy, I sure am glad that they have GUIDs for every key command. That makes everything better. Probably need to put the Windows Terminal config file in SVN, yeah. Listen to the people who say go to settings, press open JSON. Oh, was that a thing? Well, we did it this way. So how do we actually add the line? I assume it's one of these, right? Do we add some stuff in here? Key bindings key. Oh, so it's a separate, it's not actions. It's key bindings. No, these are crap. Give me the thing everybody wants to do. Command. Does that command thing go into actions or does it go? Isn't it great how much time I'm spending doing this? This is why I don't ever do this shit. Send input. Okay, so this does go in actions. Okay. We were right before, I think, right? Before somebody lied. Send input. Input. Dude, JSON is so crappy. Like, why are these all strings with quotes around them? Keys. Like, whose idea was this? Do I just say F5? Let's try it. Failed to reload settings. Wait. Line 33. Oh, this is a comma, not a semicolon. We use semicolons every day. Found a key binding that was missing a required parameter value. What why is everybody so bad at error messages? Okay? Okay, it's good that it didn't silently fail and it gave me a pop-up. But like, what is the required parameter value that is missing, asshole? See, command is an object. No, up here it's fine. Needs to be command colon action send input. Okay, maybe for this. Maybe for this one it does. For other commands it doesn't need to be. So like that. Oh, dude, maybe it worked. Nope. Silently fucking fails. Extra comma. Oh. No, that's not going to matter. Maybe this is in there. Do you guys see why I never fucking mess around with settings? Still doesn't work. I've done so much of this for so many years. It's F5 lowercase, okay. Hey, it worked now. Could it have told me uppercase F5 is not a known key combo? Yeah, it could have. Okay, how do I actually make it also do an enter, because the new line didn't do that. The new line is not new lining. A \r. Okay, great. So now we can actually do our thing. I don't even remember. Is that it? Why am I not remembering literally? I type this out all the time. Yeah, it is. Okay. Okay, we're going to have that be F5. What if I want to do, okay, I say Shift plus. Okay, so here, if I go Shift F5, we're going to go on, okay. Actually, we want this to be on F7 and Shift F7. At least it hot reloads. That's pretty good. Okay, this we want x64. All right, Shift F7. Uh-oh. Oh, I didn't rebuild the frickin' compiler, the release compiler before doing this. Lol. Anyway, we finally have hotkeys. Can't I just use a slash? The thing is, it doesn't always work to just use a slash. Like some tools and some things get confused by it and think it's an option. So I just don't use it if I can help it. Although in this case, we might be able to. You bet most programmers on Twitch spend hours doing mundane stuff like that and people love it. I mean, there is a thing about stuff like that where it's easier for more people to relate to it, right? Like when I'm deep down in something on the compiler that nobody knows what it is, it's like, okay, whatever. But it's like, oh, the terminal, I know the terminal, right? I know the terminal. Let's put our F5 in. Consider making a backup. Yeah, we're going to back this up right now. Hey, I ran the Silkabong game with F5. Now there's no reason to want to use Commander. All right, so I'm going to copy this. to my bin. Where's my bin folder? There it is. On Dropbox. So that we at least have the file now. Now that said, file will probably change a little with next version of Windows Update, but we can cut out the part that's just the commands that we do. I wanted to check something. Oh, he's got the... Let's reset for a second. He's got the little circle cutouts now. Oh, nice. Okay. No, this is working pretty okay. Like, I think we want a nicer... I think we want a nicer texture for the LOD there, but see how we LOD out to like more of an overhead map feel? This is working pretty good. Anyway, it works. The pink on gray font at the top. That is called not sweating the colors right now while we're still in development. All right, everybody. Thanks for coming by. I think that's it for now. We did a quick little nugget of stuff in the morning, and we got an entire feature done. Did I check in this test? Yes. So that's great. I didn't even expect to get that entire feature done. Like I said, there's probably going to be some loose ends that we'll run into, but we'll see what those are when it comes up. Have a good weekend, everybody. If you're in Russia, have interesting times this weekend. Thanks, everyone. See you later. We might do another stream tonight. We'll see.